Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Have Mercy bassist Nick Woolford to the podcast. Have Mercy released their new record, Numb, last Friday on Rude Records. Nick talks about the formation of the band, the various record labels the band has been on over the years, how starting a podcast rekindled their friendship, making music again, and more. Thanks for checking out this episode. If you aren't subscribed, I would love it if you were. As the Story Grows should be on every major podcast platform out there. And if we aren't on a platform you like, email me. You can find that in the show notes, as well as links to Patreon, Discord, and our mailing list on Substack. Enjoy today's conversation with Nick Woolford of Have Mercy.
So tell me right now how you want this thing to go. No, we can't restart. Is this where we...
Know where the other guys are doing. I think I'm the only one that got off work in time.
It's all good. It's all good. Sometimes I'm aware of who I'm chatting with, and sometimes it's just like, let's guess.
let's see what happens. Yeah.
Yesterday it was like the whole band. They were like, yeah, we're on tour and we're just have a day off. And I was like, okay, great, awesome, whole band. Awesome, man. Well, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks to whoever in the band for being cool with me having to step out yesterday.
Oh, that was me as well.
Okay, it's funny. Like, I don't know exactly where you are, but my wife works at Fort Meade. So I was like, I have to cancel the interview to drive closer to the band, I think. Where are you? Baltimore area?
Yeah, I live in the city.
Okay. Did you grow up? I assume if you grew up in Baltimore, you grew up in like Linthicum or something.
Yeah, basically, I grew up in Glen Burnie.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. Awesome. That's rad. What was growing up like?
I mean, it was cool. I mean, like, cause like I grew up with like basically everybody in the band.
Nice.
And so like we've all had like the same friends group and everything since we were in high school.
That's rad. What was like? What were you into as a kid before music?
Baseball. That's baseball. Like baseball is like my second passion besides music.
Nice. You're an O's fan.
I am.
It was a good season.
It was.
Fun to watch. It was very fun to watch. Yeah. My dad, growing up, hated Peter Angelos. So he was like, fuck the Orioles. And I was like, okay, I guess I can't be an O's fan.
Can't be an O's fan, yeah.
So I became a Braves fan. And then when the Nationals came around, people were like, you going to be a Nats fan? And I was like, fuck that. It's like, no way, man. But I do enjoy watching the Orioles. And yeah, it was a lot of fun this year. And the playoffs sucked for both teams. So
yeah, they did, right?
I was like, this will be great, man. World Series in Baltimore. And those Braves, let's go. And it was like, no, first round exits. It's terrible. What got you into music?
I mean, I guess probably my grandfather. He was in a band back in like when he was, I mean, he's been playing music like his whole life, but he was in a band which got my dad into playing music.
Okay.
Yeah, which got me into like just appreciating like the idea of live music.
Yeah. Yeah, what was that transition from like an appreciation to like wanting to play and be in bands?
It was having friends in middle school that like could play instruments and me wanting to hang out with them more.
Okay.
It was like so I was like, Dad, teach me how to play guitar.
Nice. What was the transition from guitar to bass? Just like the band needed a bass player? Or?
I mean, right? That's how every bass player becomes a bass player. You can't have 4 guitar players in a band and someone has to step up and be like, fuck it, I'll do it.
Oh, man. That's I talked to a band yesterday and their bass player was like, no, I just fell in love with bass because of Rock Band and I've always played bass. And my example was there are 4 guitar players and everybody can't be a guitar player. That's so funny. Yeah. I mean, I got a bass on my wall behind me because I had a friend and they were like, well, you can play guitar, you can play bass. And I was like, yeah, I guess right.
Yeah, right.
That is true. Talk to me. I know like when I was going to shows and when I was younger, like the music scene in the Baltimore area was like really popping off, but that was a lot of like metal and metalcore and post-hardcore, and that was like the early 2000s. Like, what was it for you as you were in high school? I mean, similar? I don't
Yeah, I mean, the Baltimore scene, or the Maryland scene in general, has been always pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But there was always pockets of like the more pop punk kind of stuff. Where we grew up, we always used to go to this place in Severna Park, which was like a coffee house called Woods.
Mm-hmm.
And every Friday night they would have local bands play, mostly high school bands. It was just a place for high school kids and stuff just to hang out. And that's really like where we all kind of like just developed like playing shows and getting comfortable playing and hanging out and becoming one with like, I guess like the music scene.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah. That's cool. How did, I know you're not original member to the band, but you're pretty original. How'd you end up playing with Have Mercy?
I actually am an original member.
Okay.
Kind of.
Lies.
I mean, I guess like, so like, I guess like the backstory of Have Mercy is a little interesting. So Brian was always in a bunch of different projects. And I was always the guy with like the recording studio.
Okay.
I had a bunch of recording equipment. So all the bands from the area would come to me. And when Brian and Aaron originally started, I guess, Have Mercy, it was a different variation of what it is now, but they had rotating members. But it was always Brian and Aaron. And I joined the band basically through like necessity of like just like hearing Brian's demos.
Okay.
And getting comfortable with the songs, and they recorded like a couple songs, and eventually they were just like, yeah, you can play bass. And like that, like, cause I was going to play guitar. I was going to be like the third guitar player and play like auxiliary instruments, and it just kind of folded into me playing bass.
Something I'd never seen, sitting reading these year-old magazines in a house with you. You love to laugh and tell me dreams of who you are, who you want to be, and I had no clue. But I'm thinking if the world goes in, you'll talk to me. I'll be here to late. 'Cause you were mine when I called you for
How did the band end up signing to Top Shelf Records?
I guess like we got kind of like a buzz on Tumblr for a little bit, which like really helped us there. And we ended up playing a show in Baltimore, and there was like a label executive out from LA to see another band, and he ended up being like, hey, like, you guys sound a lot like a band that I was in like the 90s, and like obviously I can't sign you to my label because I work for like a metal label, but I can manage you guys. So he kind of became our manager, and yeah, Top Chef was kind of the first label to really seem interested. Mm-hmm. So we just kind of hopped on it. I don't know how exactly it unfolded, but I mean, yeah, they were the first ones to be like, hey, like, let's do this.
That's cool. And it's like when that label first started, and like those first few releases, they were really like popping with the emo revival that was happening at the time.
Sure, right. And you know, and obviously they were just trying to hop on the trend, I believe. But you know, Seth like really felt pretty confident in it. Like the stuff that we sent him was a lot of demos. It wasn't even like full like songs that ended up being on the full length, but he was just like, yes, I like this, like I like the idea, like let's get this going before, you know, something else happens. So yeah, he was pretty adamant about just doing it. So it was cool.
That's cool. What were your guys' influences when you were getting started? Like, I mean, I don't know if like it's all comes from Brian's brain, but like what are the musical influences of the band?
I think that's kind of what made like the original, like the first full length really interesting, because Aaron definitely came from more of a like a metalcore background. Like this was his first band like outside of like the metalcore realm, and Swindle was really big in like brand new in Manchester, and just kind of like that like more alternative like indie rock vibe, like more leaning heavy into like the alternative side of things. Where I came from more like a skate punk, like pop punk background, and Andrew came from like a hardcore background. So it was really cool, interesting like mix of things, and we weren't really all that good at like trying to write these kinds of songs. So I think that's what kind of made that album special, was like we all had like a different idea and a viewpoint, and we all tried to put our own touches on it.
Yeah. What then led you guys from Top Shelf to Hopeless Records?
They saw us at a show in LA, and their A&R was really excited. Again, it was one of those things where he was actually out to see another band. And our manager happened to be out at that show too, and it was one of those things where like, we were kind of like, okay, like the band's progressing outside of Top Shelf. We do need to start talking to other labels. Like our booking agent, everybody was kind of like, let's start looking elsewhere. And I mean, Hopeless just kind of felt like the right fit at the time. We were talking to some other labels, and it just seemed like a good move forward for us to go with Hopeless.
2 years now, and I'm alone again. Close your eyes and count to 10, and tell me how the hell you've been. I'll be okay, yeah, I promise and I swear. As they open up, I ask abruptly when and why and where. Found the shoulder, I found the closest one. Confess my fears and that it's done. My fears and that it's done. Oh, I can't stare at the ceiling anymore. As the story goes, we always know that when it rains it pours.
How much of an impact? I know the band like ended up canceling, or had their last tour 2019. How much did the passing of Aaron have on the band, and where you were going at that point?
It was definitely difficult. Like he had gotten sick on tour. So it was a couple things like we kind of knew that like he probably wasn't going to go to tour with us much longer because of what he was dealing with. And, he was in and out of the hospital. So I mean, it was very tough. Like it wasn't easy. Like, we grew up writing these songs in his parents' basement, and his mom and like his brother, they were all very supportive of us and like took care of us like one of their own. So like it wasn't the easiest transition. But at the same time, like, Todd came in and filled in flawlessly when he needed to. But, I mean, I don't know. Like, it was one of those things where, like, we kind of knew, like, he wasn't going to, he couldn't tour anymore as it was. So it wasn't that, like, effective on the touring schedule, but, like, emotionally, it was fucking terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. What then led to the band going on hiatus or breaking up there in 2019?
I mean, I think we just kind of felt the band had run its course. There was the highs and lows, and it just kind of felt like we weren't progressing. And, without going into like the politics of the music business or anything, like we kind of felt stuck and kind of felt like if we just kept doing this, we weren't going to get any bigger, and it was just going to kind of like kill us emotionally and mentally. Like, I mean, we were on the road constantly. So it got really tough to a point where I was just like, do we want to continue doing this, or do we just take a step back and reevaluate it and try to find out like where we're at in our lives and maybe get a different job and just see what happens, kind of thing.
Yeah. You're getting older. It's less fun. It's
sure, exactly.
And like the whole music industry is shifting at that point too.
Exactly. And like once like the business side of things takes over and it's not fun anymore, it becomes hostile. It's hard. It's mentally draining.
Yeah. What then led to you guys reuniting and releasing music? Was it just COVID and like that absence? Yeah.
It was COVID and us just kind of like rekindling. Like me, Brian, and Andrew started a podcast, which got us talking more. And, Brian came to us with like, hey, he's like, I bought some studio equipment during COVID and I started writing some of these songs and they sound like Have Mercy songs. I don't know what to do with them. If you guys are bored one day, you want to come over. And we just kind of started, just fucking around. Like it wasn't meant to be anything.
Yeah.
And on a whim, we showed them to our old publicist who, absolutely adored us and loved us. So we were just like, hey, look at this. And she was like, you have to do something with these songs.
Nice. What led to you guys starting a podcast? Just like boredom or
boredom, right? I mean, like trying to find something to do to get out of the house,
Yeah.
And I think like it helped us like with our friendship, right? It wasn't all band, we've been friends since high school, so it really helped us get back to like that kind of a friendship and not like the Have Mercy side of things.
Yeah. When you guys decided to release music again, was there a decision of like, we're doing it different this time around? We're not going to be busting our asses and touring for, 6 months out of the year?
Oh, 100%. That was the idea behind it all together. It was like, if there is enough interest, then we would, we'd think about it. And there happened to be. So like, we decided to play a couple of shows and they went really well. And then a couple of shows turned into more shows. And like, it seems to be going really well. If you notice, like the trend now is a lot of bands are doing this. Well, they'll only tour for 2 weeks. Then they'll take like a couple of weeks off and then they'll go back out. Like no one's doing like a full 6-week tour anymore. They're all doing it in different legs.
Yeah. You put out EP last year, and you have a full length coming out. Was there ever a discussion on like just releasing singles, or is like the album still an important thing for you guys?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think the idea was just to do singles. But we started writing and we were like, well, we have 5 songs. We're like, okay, that's enough. And then Andrew would be like, oh, I have this riff idea. Like, okay, well, there's 6. And then, so it just kept going and going and going to the point where like, okay, what do we do with these songs? And I was like, do we just release them on our own and say whatever? Or maybe we try someone to release it. So, and a record label definitely doesn't want to release just singles. That seems to be, for some reason, they just won't do it. So, yeah, it's just an album.
Yeah. It's really interesting that like labels still are so hyper focused on like, you gotta have something longer to sell when it's like,
I don't get it, but I mean, it's cool. Like I like the idea of it, but
yeah. I mean, some people I still like the album, but I definitely am not mad if bands are just like, here's a new song every 3 months, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, what's the difference? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. What led you guys to Rude Records?
I think they were probably the most that was down with the idea of us not touring heavy.
Okay.
Which was cool. Everyone else was like, yeah, we love it, but like, we want you to do all this. I'm like, well, we're not going to do all that. So like, it was definitely like, they're a label that was definitely down for us to do it on our own terms and like how we wanted to do it. And they were really cool. And I like the idea. Like they're not like real associated with any other like major label. They do everything on their own. Everything is like publicly funded money. So like it's really cool how they're doing it over there. And it's been fun so far.
Nice. New album is called Numb. Where'd the title come from?
It is the name of the song. There's a song on the album called Numb.
Yeah.
And when we've always been terrible at naming albums. So like we thought it was cool, it was quick, and it kind of reflected the overall idea of the like the story arc of the album. So like we're going with Numb. It fits with like the meanings behind every song, so it worked out.
Nice. Who did the album artwork for you guys? It's super dope.
My best friend Dan.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just been like a friend of ours forever who's been really artsy, and I was like, we should just have him try to draw something up, and yeah, I was like, damn, that's pretty cool. So
Did you give him a concept, or did he just like have the album or the songs and the lyrics and just?
he just listened to the album.
Nice.
He actually came into the studio with us when we were recording it and just kind of like sketched out ideas like while listening to us record. It was really interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. You said there's like a story behind the album. What's the lyrical theme?
A lot of it has to do with like, I guess, getting kind of like the COVID thing, right? And like Brian's sobriety a lot in general, and like him kind of coming to terms with like his mental health, his sobriety, getting married, and just kind of like getting through all those obstacles to get where we are now. That is probably the biggest, theme in the whole thing.
That's cool. Yeah, having gotten sober over COVID, it's like, yeah, you have this like mental clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Album's out December 8th. You guys played a few shows earlier this month, just local Northeast shows. Are you guys looking to play more shows next year? Or you're just going to focus on like, I don't know, a big like video plan for the release of this album?
No, we definitely have shows. Probably by the time this is released, we'll announce another string of shows for early spring. We're going to have some more we're going to do pockets, right? We're going to try to hit every portion of the United States, probably do some festivals, and hopefully we get overseas. Like, we definitely want to continue this ride, just more like in a way that's just easier for us to, one, get off work or deal with, more home life situations. So if we can get away for 6 days, perfect. We'll play as many shows as we can,
Yeah, but there's no stress or pressure. It's just like, if the shows don't happen or the tours don't happen, like, okay, there's no pressure to get out there and like,
yeah, exactly, like
recoup a shit ton of money, right?
For sure. And like, and we've been offered a bunch of tours, and we've been, we've turned down a bunch of things, and like all the bands are like hitting us up and like calling us on our phones and be like, what the hell? And we're like, hey man, like but like, and it's cool because like everyone's like, every time we have turned down a tour, every band has been totally understandable about it.
Yeah.
But it is cool to be like, well, shit, like people still care,
Yeah. Yeah. And if the right one comes along.
Exactly. If the right one, there's certain tours we're not going to turn down, right? But like, if that comes along, for sure.
Yeah. When Jimmy wants to take you out on the stage,
exactly.
Y'all definitely fucking do it. Yeah.
If Atkins comes calling, I'll be out there. It's just been really fun. The support has been great. The shows have been overwhelming, and it's just cool to see that like a band who's like us, who's been around for so long and who has had so many ups and downs, can still play a show and see that we've made an impact on someone, and it's been great. And we hopefully you like the album. We put a lot of time and effort into it. So yeah, December 8th it comes out, and 2024 there's gonna be a bunch more shows. So yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. There like these like pockets of renewed interest? I know I got Earth Pushback on the Top Shelf Record Vinyl Club when they did the reissue. Oh shit. A few years back, probably way more than a few years at this point. Like, do those things come out and it's like renewed interest and like people are just like, oh, I'm just discovering your band?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's actually happened a couple times. People come up to us and be like, I just heard your band like last year, or like, I'm like, damn, like that's crazy. But it makes sense. I think like the whole like When We Were Young and like this whole kind of like revival on TikTok has really had people find bands that they've never heard of before. But it's kind of the same way as like, when I was started getting into bands, I was finding albums from like 5 years ago and being like, oh, like getting into Jawbreaker, like, oh, they've been broken up for 7 years. Cool. Yeah. But
Yeah, for sure. You discover a band and then you look and you're like, oh, here are all these bands I never knew.
Exactly.
Speak the truth. You haven't done it since the day that I met you, so speak the truth. It's taking everything in me not to pick up the phone.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcast and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I'll never